tips on how to become the best YouTuber you can be. Because as we all know, YouTubing is easy. You just got to have the momentum, the motivation, and the compulsion to go live on YouTube. I recommend it wholeheartedly, and I recommend you go live on YouTube. But of course, to be a successful YouTuber, there are some tips to follow. And that's what I would like to share with you today on this YouTube Live. Top tips on how to become a YouTuber. Hey, listen, I've got at least 20 top tips, and there may well be more. I've got 10 written down. The first one, which I think is really important when you go live, if you decide to put the camera on or not, or to use a crazy video as I am currently, is you must clear away your plastic doll. What I mean by that is you got to clear up your environment. I mean, for example, listen, you know, if you were to see me now, you'd see hello, hi. If you were to see me now, you'd see the front room in the right tip. I've got food on my shirt and cobwebs everywhere. You know, but I made sure to get rid of the plastic doll, because imagine the embarrassment of leaving something out that could be seen in the background. That would just take away your credibility in a flick of the whatever that is. So that's my first bit of advice. Clear away your rubber doll, because the last thing you want is for the rubber doll to be seen in the background. So first tip, most important, make sure your studio is clean. Get rid of all those things that you don't want your audience to see. Okay, that is a really important tip when you are YouTubing. Make sure you have a clean environment. Get rid of your rubber doll. What I mean by that is that you don't want anything incriminating lurking behind you, left out. You know what I mean? On to the second vital bit of advice on becoming a top YouTuber. Make sure you have a puncture repair kit. Okay? Because what I mean by that is to keep your show on the road, to keep your show driving forward, you do need to have four wheels. You need to have good, reliable tyres, if you know what I mean. And you've got to have a spare tyre, and you've got to have a puncture repair kit beside you. Because if one of those tyres comes off, if you hit a pothole, you're going to need to change that tyre pretty quick. Otherwise, again, credibility is going to plummet. And you don't want your credibility to plummet when you're making it big in the YouTube platform. Because, of course, there are lots of benefits to becoming a YouTuber. And we'll touch on those benefits in due course. But what I mean by having a puncture repair kit is that you've got to be able to change your tyre to keep your show driving along, to keep the show on the road. I personally use Michelin tyres. I think they're far more superior than any other tyre out there. And if you drive like a Formula One driver and take care of those tyres, you can get those tyres to last twice as long as your competitors. If you're really careful and you got the mindset of Lewis Hamilton when it comes to tyres, you can keep those tyres running forever. But that's what I mean. Make sure you got a good tyre repair kit, because you need those four wheels. If you haven't got four wheels, you're not going to drive the show forward. You're not going to stay on the road. Which comes on to number 3. Another important lesson in going live, becoming a successful YouTuber. You have to keep your dangerous animals in their cage, because there is nothing more disastrous as a YouTuber. For example, that your pet tiger comes along and literally bites your head off in front of your audience. And you know, no doubt it hasn't happened, but it could. And that's what I mean by keeping your animals caged up while you go live. Because the last thing you want is your tiger biting your head off midstream. It don't look good, and you will lose all credibility. So what I mean by keeping your dangerous animals caged up is to keep your animals caged up. It literally says what it says on the tin, so to speak. If you've got a tarantula, you don't want that crawling across your keyboard, hitting the buttons. If you've got a dangerous tiger, you don't want that coming along, biting you. If you've got a python, you don't want that coming along, wrapping itself around your neck and suffocating you live on air. So keep those dangerous animals at bay while you go live. Another top tip to become a successful YouTuber, even though these tips may sound simple, a lot of people forget to apply them. And then as a consequence, they have a terrible time YouTubing, when ultimately it should be a great time. It should be a fun time. But you should always have something to talk about. If you ain't got nothing to talk about, then don't come in on and talk. So you need to have something to carry on the conversation, to carry on the engagement. Because there's nothing worse than dead air. And then that goes on to one of the next tips: use stocking fillers. I'm using a Christmas analogy for this. You know, if you are in danger of having nothing to say, use a stock filler. I personally use promotional videos, little videos from either 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And that allows you to fill in those gaps that would otherwise be left up with going the ums and the ahs. And you don't want any ums and ahs. It just loses credibility. Welcome everyone. You're watching Matt Taylor TV's top tips on how to be a YouTuber. I was just discussing with the first one in the chat, Mohammed Azadazaman, on it's imperative to when to be a YouTuber, to have something to say, even if it's just the weather. You got to talk about something. If you haven't got anything to say, use stocking fillers. I'm using Christmas as an analogy here. What I'm talking about is have something entertaining that you can fill the gap. Okay, and also a little subsection to this is about changing chapters. And what I mean by changing chapters is that sometimes in a conversation, you want to go from one subject to a matter to another. And the good way to go from one subject matter to another is to change the chapter technique. And of course, the change the chapter technique eliminates the ums. I mean, did you hear that? I just said it then. And that's why stocking fillers come in handy there, where you can play something, play a promotional video, play an advert, play something that will just change the chapter, so to speak. And like I said, stocking fillers are always the best thing to do. Comes on to the next point, and I'll use Mohammed Azadazaman. It's a shame it's not the real Mohammed Azadazaman, but hey, listen, it's okay for the purposes of these top 10 tips to become a YouTuber. Engage with the viewers and treat them as the best of the best, because ultimately you want those return sales. You want your audience to engage with you, to find what you're doing entertaining, and to come back. because ultimately they have the decision to subscribe or not to subscribe. They have the decision to watch you or not to watch you. So what I recommend is to treat every person in the audience as the best audience member in the whole wide world. And that's why I'm so thrilled that Mohammed Azadazaman was so kind and gracious to make himself known and say, "Good evening, Matt." Isn't that wonderful? That shows what a lovely guy Mohammed Azadazaman is. Funny enough, that's got me on a bit of a tangent, which I think I'll just I'll run along for the time being. As we know, Mohammed Azadazaman, a good friend of mine, he's currently the Brighton mayor. Well, you may not know, but in 2026, they're going to become elected mayors, much in the same way as the mayor of London, Liverpool, Manchester, etc. And I was just watching, coincidentally, Chris Eubank. I was watching Chris Eubank, and I thought to myself, do you know, Chris Eubank will make a great mayor. Chris Eubank would make a great mayor of Brighton. And so, you are the first to hear this. You are the first to hear, because I value your audience. I value you as an audience so much. I want you to be the first to hear this news. I am stepping aside from running as Brighton's mayor, and I'm putting all my energy and campaigning behind Mr. Chris Eubank Sr. Yes, I'm offering my services to be the election manager for Chris Eubank Sr. to become Brighton's first publicly elected mayor. I thought I'd like to share with you that breaking news, only because you are so valuable to me, just as Mohammed Azadazaman is so valuable to the show, just as this is number 6 on my top 10 tips on becoming a YouTuber, because it is easy if you keep it simple. And one of those tips is to engage with the viewers and treat them like the most important people in the whole wide world, because that isn't just a grift. It's true. It's true. You are the most important people in the world. You have a plethora. You have hundreds of thousands of people you can be watching on YouTube right now. And I'm so grateful you're tuning in to Matt Taylor TV to watch the top 10 tips on how to become a YouTuber. Because I know deep down, there's some of you watching going, yeah, I'd like to do it. I'd like to become a YouTuber. And let me tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than being a YouTuber. Which brings us on to the number 7 top tip on becoming a YouTuber. You got to have a comfortable chair. You really do. I know there's a certain YouTuber in America, very successful, Ben Johnson. He stands up to do a show, but predominantly people sit down. Now, depending on the stream, you could be sat down from 5 minutes to 5 hours. So to become a successful YouTuber and to make it easy and enjoyable, you got to have your cushions. You got to get something to cushion your buttocks. Because I tell you now, if your buttocks aren't comfortable, it'll be unlikely that you'll enjoy YouTubing. Another good tip is to ditch your wingman. You don't need a wingman to be a successful and then YouTuber and to have an enjoyable experience YouTubing. Ditch the wingman. They're surplus to requirements. Okay? With the technology you have available now at our fingertips, you can do it all yourself. Okay? And what with AI assistants, stock fillers, promotional videos, this and that, that and this, you don't need a wingman. I'm telling you from a personal experience, wingmen aren't all they're cracked up to be. More often than not, they'll turn on you, and you don't want your wingman to turn on you because they know all your secrets. They know what goes on behind the scenes, and you don't want anyone behind the scenes telling the audience what goes on behind the scenes. It goes back to my first tip. Keep your plastic dolly, keep your blow-up doll away. And that's the same as about the wingman, because the wingman will know where your blow-up doll is. Another, number 9, keep children out of it. Okay, always hit the 18 plus, okay? Keep children out of it. Do not aim your show at children of all ages. Okay, because you don't want to get your audience mixed up. Don't mix your audiences up. Decide what audience is your target and stick with that target audience. Don't get kids involved. And the last tip, product placement. Always consider product placement. Because ultimately, as a YouTuber, and a successful YouTuber at that, you'd want your time and effort to be rewarded. If you're taking the effort to go live and give something of value to the audience, which they are receiving for free, I recommend product placement. Even if it's something in the background, something people can see behind your shoulder. A book, a link, an affiliate link. Product placement is a great way to gain some reward, quite frankly, from sacrificing your time to entertain the YouTube audience. Now, of course, there are many more top tips for me to tell you, and for you, no doubt, that you know already, to become a successful YouTuber. And it's all about keeping it simple, keeping it fun. Because while ultimately you want to entertain and educate your audience, you also want to find satisfaction and enjoyment in YouTubing yourself. So, of course, while there are many more top tips to become a YouTuber, I'm just concentrating on 10 to get you a head start.
I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.